All right, today we are looking at a $10 Xbox Original from a yard sale. Is it even going to work? We're going to plug it in. It's clearly not very clean, and I don't know where it's been. But let's find out if it even powers on. Ooh, bonus. So it powers on. Not getting any video. Let's see if there's a game or if the drive opens. Oh, hey, free game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Not bad. Well, I gotta say, I'm honestly surprised it works. Let's see what's on here. Well, it looks like they played this quite a bit. Well, they even have music on here. I don't know very many people that actually use the music setting. Let's see if the clock capacitor is actually still potentially functioning. So I'm going to turn it off. Let's unplug it. Actually, let's take a look at the bottom. Oh, look, it has actually been opened before. I didn't even notice it's missing all of its rubber feet. And it has been opened. So there's a good chance that the clock capacitor may not even be in there. But let's take this ball of fuzz out of there. It'll be interesting to see what's in here when we finally get it open. All right, it's been about, I think about an hour and a half since I unplugged this. So let's see what we get. Here we go. Okay, so it came up and didn't ask to reset the clock or the date. So the clock capacitor does appear to be functional. But I think it's now time to open this guy up and see exactly what we've got in there. It'll be interesting to find out which version of the original Xbox do we have in here as to, you know, what kind of mod we can do on it. Screws on the bottom are a T20. So we have a Thompson DVD drive, which means this is probably going to be an early machine. It's missing the screw here. So that means this can just come straight out. It's also missing the screw that holds down the DVD drive. Okay, so based on the manufacturer's date on the bottom, which is 2004, month of 07, and the fact that, let's see if we can zoom in and if you can see it. Probably not. But that is an Excalibur video chip. That this is a 1.6 revision of the Xbox. The fact that this is a 1.6 board that has a Thompson drive in it probably means that it was opened to replace the drive. I suspect that the drive that was originally in this machine probably died and someone swapped it out with a Thompson drive. One thing I just realized that we never did was check to see if the drive actually does function. So let's turn her back on. Yep, it looks like the drive works. Bonus. So since this 1.6 version Xbox seems to be in pretty great shape internally, dusted off the board, everything just looks great. The clock capacitor is fine, looks to be fine. It still works, so that's good. The 1.6 is not as bad as the other consoles. They used a higher quality capacitor in the 1.6, so it's not too bad. So what I've decided I'm going to do with this is, let's mod it. Let's put a mod chip in. upgrade the hard drive, and back up our games, just like we did with that with those GameCubes. I'll put a link to the GameCube video up here. It was just the last couple of videos. Let's take a look at this and see if we can get a mod chip in it. First thing, before we do anything else, is we're going to have to clean and change this thermal paste. It is going to be super rock hard and probably really difficult to get off. So let's clean this up now. All right, CPU came off, no problem. There's the rock hard thermal paste. So that whole thing is going to have to come off. GPU, on the other hand, is not letting go. So I'm just going to warm up the GPU heatsink for a little bit. The thermal paste is just rock hard. I just have my heat gun on the lowest setting possible. You can see now it's starting to move a little bit. So it's warmed up enough. So I'm just going to turn this off now. Then twist it back and forth, and off she comes. And before it cools down, I'm going to try to scrape off as much of it as I can. Just using a plastic spudger to scrape it off. This part is going to take a while. But be patient. It is a required step. Well, there we go. CPU and the GPU are all cleaned up. Now we actually have to clean the heat sinks themselves. And this is not going to be fun. Just letting the heatsink sit in isopropyl alcohol seems to help speed up the process. There we go. GPU heatsink, all clean. Let's see how a toothbrush does. Well, that worked pretty good. There we go. Isopropyl alcohol and a little elbow grease, and they'll come clean. So we got our thermal paste on there now. We just got to put the clips back on. CPU heatsink reinstalled, GPU heatsink reinstalled, and we are good to go. So this is the Aladdin mod chip for the Xbox. You could get them pretty much anywhere. These are not hard to find anymore. And they are also not expensive. I actually got mine off Amazon. Probably could have got it cheaper from somewhere else, but you can't beat the convenience. So it comes with the chip, and it also comes with this pin header. That normally gets wired into the LPC port on the board. If you have a 1.5 to a 1.0, you just solder it in, plug it on, and it's super fast, away you go. But with a 1.6, they disabled all of this. They still left the port in, but you have to rebuild some of the connections. So what we have to do first is we have to take our pin header, put it on the board, and we'll use some blue tack to keep it where it is. And the first step is to just solder the pins in. So in order to rebuild the LPC, you have to run 5 wires to the different pins on the connector. They're not super difficult, but they are some small points. I don't think you'll be able to see it very well on the camera, so I'm going to go ahead and do those, but I'm going to put a picture up right now of what I'm going to wire up. And then I'll also put so I'm going to put a picture up right here of what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to put a link down below to the instructions. So if you need to, you can get a higher quality picture, take a look real close at what you need to solder to. But there's only 5 wires that you have to wire up. So here's the completed mod. It probably looks more difficult than it really is, because I tried to keep my wires as absolutely short as possible. And in the blue wire here, a lot of people just put a solder blob between the point and the pin on the connector. I didn't really want to do that, so I tightly curled a little wire in there. So yeah, it's not too bad. So there's the 5 wires. And then there's a 6th wire, which when I was reading some instructions, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. This is the D0 point, and you have to pull that to ground, which is what tells the Xbox to try to boot its BIOS off of the LPC port. So you can do this. There's a pin on the actual chip that you can run it to, or I found in instructions that just said this is D0 and pull this around to this pad here, which was ground, and then that's that. So now to test it, we have to put this back in here. One more connection you have to make is you have to take these 2 pads and wire them together on the chip itself. And all this does is make the chip always on, so that you don't have to worry about it ever not being on at the time when you boot your Xbox. Back in the old days when Xbox Live was still a thing for the OG Xbox, that was put in there in order to prevent the chip from being detected, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's no longer needed since there is no Xbox Live for this one anymore. Okay, so we just take the chip now and just install it. So there's the header on the chip, and we install it onto the pins like so. And you can see the LED light came on right away, which means that the chip is getting power. So the chip is powered currently. That's a good sign. I'm going to try booting it up without the hard drive or DVD drive in. It doesn't need to actually boot in order to know whether or not the chip is working. So let's go ahead. Let's turn her on. And there it is. The Evo X logo in the corner says that the Xbox is booting off the chip. So we did it. So we can turn her off, and that's it. She's done. We have mod chipped the Xbox, and yeah. That was pretty straightforward and pretty simple, I gotta tell you. But now you're saying, what do we do with this? Now it's got a mod chip in it, but now what? A new hard drive. But once we get the bigger hard drive in there, we can start backing up our games onto the actual system so we don't have to use our game discs anymore. If you remember my previous Xbox video where I was talking about the IDE to SATA converters that you can get in order to put in newer hard drives and bigger hard drives into these machines, you'll know that I said that these cheap Chinese knockoff ones are just junk, which is totally true. They are junk. But I did find a site that listed some ones that actually did work. And I'll put a link for them in the description down below. And I'll put a link to my other Xbox video either here or, somewhere along the top here. If you want to go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But I saw an article on this website, like I said, that I'll link down below, where they said that this Chinese knockoff one would actually work. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. For your guys' sake, I'll try it first and see if it actually works. And the truth is, no, it's not perfect. It doesn't work that well. It is considerably cheaper than the StarTech one that I recommended in my other video. So I took out the original cable and put in an 80 conductor cable. In order to install this new drive, which is just a 2 terabyte big hard drive that I had laying around, you need to boot off of a CD. Now, this being a Thompson drive, it's pretty particular when it comes to burned media. And a lot of the drives that come in the Xboxes have different quirks when it comes to burned media. But it seems that the general consensus is that DVD minus R media works better. But I didn't have any DVD minus R media. I had DVD plus R, which, typical. But I had 3 different brands of DVD plus R media. So I decided to try them to see which one works best. So I had a Philips DVD plus R, and I had a Maxell DVD plus R. And what you have to burn on there is an ISO called True Hexen, and then there's different versions. I just got the latest one, which is True Hexen 2021. And what this disc lets you do is it lets you boot up, it'll find the new disc, it'll format the drive, and then this allows you to install a new dashboard onto the new drive. So when I was testing the discs, this one here didn't quite work. It booted, but didn't totally boot. So let me show you that now. So you burn the media at minimum or at maximum 4 times speed. And you can see here it tries to boot. It's trying really hard. And then sometimes you'll get the little underneath Xbox, it'll say Linux, just like that. And then it'll go to a black screen and then nothing. Oh, this time it actually worked. Go figure. Always when you're on camera, does it do something different than when you were working off camera. So anyway, so whether you boot, depending on which media works for you guys, and with everyone, it's still the same process after that. So it's detected a new hard disk. Do you want to format it? And you use your controller and you press both triggers and the start button, just like it says. And it says, hey, it's going to delete everything. Are you sure? And then if you have a big drive, so anything over like the original 10, you will have an F drive. You want to format it. So because this is going to be, the F drive is most likely where you're going to put all of your stuff. So now we're in the Hexen boot disk menu. And it can be a little overwhelming if you're not exactly sure what you're doing. In our particular situation, we are using a chipped Xbox. But we don't really need to do anything. Once we've gone through the first part where it formatted the drive for us, all we need to do now is come down and install apps and dashboards. So if we go in here and we want to install dashboards, and I prefer to use XBMC for gamers. So what this is going to do is it's going to install it to the E drive, which is a partition that existed on the original Xbox hard drive. F is the place that we put in with all of our extra stuff. So I'm going to install XBMC for gamers to the E drive. And then it does its little install procedure. So then it asks you if you want to install XBMC for gamers as your default dashboard on boot. So what that will do is it will put a small file on the C drive partition of the Xbox in order to boot this first off of the E drive rather than the traditional Xbox dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. So everything is now set up and done. This drive is ready to go. So let's go ahead and let's just shut down. We'll take the disk out. Shut down, and we'll try turning on with the new drive in. Okay, here we go. Let's power it on with the new... Oh, one thing I should warn you about. Just thought of this. When you boot off of the True Hexen disk, the ring, which I can't really show you because it's down here, the ring down here changes color. It changes to red. And there's actually different controls for the colors here. So if you see a weird color on there, or red, when it's booting, that's not a problem. It is exactly how it's supposed to be. So just so you know. Now, this to me seems excessively slow. Like, it shouldn't take this long, which is, of course, going to be our good friend cheap-ass IDE to SATA connector just not doing its thing properly. Yeah, this is just totally slow. So, even with the 80 conductor cable, this thing is a piece of crap. Only go with StarTech. That's the only way to go. So XBMC for Gamers is finally loaded. So you could create different profiles in here. So I'm just going to add a profile for myself. So then it goes through a whole bunch of calibration stuff for televisions. We'll just leave it for now. And then it needs to reboot. So I can't say I've ever had this happen before. I picked up a StarTech in order to get the speed working again, and I put back in the original IDE cable, and it wouldn't work. I was surprised because I've done 4 or 5 of these prior to this, and they've never needed the 80 conductor wire cable, except this is my first 1.6. Okay, so we put our Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 disc in the machine. You can see there that it is showing that it's reading it. We have to do a little finagling. I thought this would be way easier. Or set up already for us with this, but we have to do a little finagling in order to get the software for ripping the discs to your drive. So we're going to press the black button on the controller and bring up the menu, the options menu. We're going to go into settings, and then we're going to go into the file manager. Then we're going to go to the E drive, into the apps folder, and you will see the XBMC for Gamers folder. Go in there. And then there's also another apps folder. And there you will see the DVD to Xbox folder. And we're going to press Y to highlight. And then we're going to press the left directional pad to move over to the other folder. We're going to go to the E drive. And we're going to go into the apps folder. And then we're going to go back and press the context menu and go copy. So that's the white button, and we select copy. And it's going to say, copy these files, okay. So now we'll go back over to our other folder, and now there's a DVD to Xbox folder in there. Now if we go back, and we can just keep pressing B until we get all the way back here. So now if we press B again, and we go into our applications section, we will now have DVD to Xbox. So we're going to load that up. Okay, so now we're in DVD to Xbox. Now we're going to go down to settings. And let's see, I believe it's in general. There's no longer regular Microsoft Xbox Live, but there is a third party running an Xbox Live server that you can configure this to log into. I'm not really into online gaming, but if you are, you can look that up and get this configured. But when you rip your games, you have to turn on the ACL processing and ACL RMMVEP. What that does is it means that if this game supports Xbox Live and if it's on that new third-party service, you'll be able to use it online. And we're going to copy game to the hard disk, and we're going to copy it into F Games, which is exactly where we want to copy it. We're going to hit the start button, and we'll see how long this takes. When we did this process on the GameCube, all GameCube games are 1.5 gigs. The ripping program makes a complete image of the disc no matter what. So every game is going to be 1.5 gigs. So it's very easy to calculate how much space you need for how many games you've got. With this, they could be anywhere from a CD size all the way up to a full DVD of 8 gigs. Your mileage may vary in terms of what happens in this procedure here. It's going to depend on how big your games are and how many you have. So Tony Hawk did not take very long to extract. It only took 6 minutes and 50 seconds. That's a lot faster compared to the GameCube was. But let's try another game. We got Splinter Cell. So you can see the Splinter Cell took a little bit longer to do, and it's probably just because, honestly, it's probably just a little bit bigger of a game than Tony Hawk 4 was. So now we just go down and select Exit to Dashboard, and we'll be taken back to XBMC for Gamers. And now, when XBMC for Gamers loads up, we now have the 2 games that we extracted onto the hard drive. So let's load up Tony Hawk. All right, so Tony Hawk is rolling around. Whippy! Apparently all I know how to do is a 180 ollie. One of the coolest features of the Xbox when you get to do this mod is it has what's called in-game reset. So if you pull both triggers and hit start and select, it restarts the whole system. So you can get out of the game and get back into the dashboard. Our $10 garage sale Xbox is working great. First time working on a 1.6, it was a little different. So with our $10 Xbox, we changed the thermal paste, cleaned up the inside a little bit, installed a really inexpensive mod chip that you can get pretty close to anywhere. We ripped some games onto the new expanded 2 terabyte hard drive that we put into this bad boy. So $10 at a yard sale can go a really long way. That's it for this video for this week. We'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe. It really does help the channel if you like the video. If you don't like the video, hit that dislike button too. Go for it. I won't hold it against you, but maybe a little bit. Bye.